Bravo.
Thank you.
Love the guitar work.
Yep.
Very, you obviously know what you're doing with the guitar. Could have used some more vocal though. I'm going to give you 2 stars.
But the theme doesn't have any vocals in it.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Say what again?
Love your suit.
When I found you, I saw raw, untamed power. And beyond that, something truly special.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, but immediately following the events of The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi finds Rey on a deserted island with Luke Skywalker, while Finn, Poe, Leia, and the rest of the rebels are keeping up the fight against the First Order. Now, I saw this in a pretty bare cinema for work with about 15 people, but Timsy, you saw the midnight screening. How was that?
Absolutely, yeah, man. Midnight screening. Always do a midnight screening for a Star Wars film because I just get caught up in the buzz of it.
It's past my bedtime, man. I can't do it. I'm asleep by 8:30 most nights, so...
I mean, the length of this film, man, you would have got home about 4 a.m. if I had you gone, you know. So. But it was a weird vibe, man. I don't know what it was. It was just this air of tension before the opening scroll came up. There was a lack of buzz, not many costumes, not much applause when the credits rolled for the film. So it could be one of those things where people are just maybe not as invested in these films as what they were previously.
And it sounds like quite an un-Star Wars-like situation, which is actually a bit what this movie was, even down to, like, it had swearing in it.
Yeah, man. Like, it had swearing in there. Like, Finn says the line, "You bastard," when, you know, they've been captured by the First Order and being betrayed. And Poe says a big-ass door later on in the film.
Oh, and there is also Samuel L. Jackson who says motherfucker at one point as well. So, you know, there is that.
Mace Windu comes back, guys. We didn't want to spoil the film.
Sorry,
there you go.
Motherfucker.
How'd you find the film?
Look, man, it's a mediocre film, which is not something that I want going into a Star Wars film.
Right.
Okay. I found the performances to be really uneven, you know, when it came to the cast, which is, you know, one of the first things. Your main protagonist, Daisy Ridley, playing Rey, she's really flat and unlikable in this, you know, from her performance, but also the script doesn't do her favors in the film. Poe was fine.
Yeah,
you know,
Oscar
Isaac.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
He's rock solid in, like, everything.
Yeah,
so,
exactly, man. I mean, he really brings a lot of energy to the part. I thought Hamill was brilliant.
See, I've got a feeling, Timsy, that we're going to disagree about a lot of things, and let this be the first, because I struggled with Mark Hamill's performance. Yeah, like, I found it... I felt like there was a lot of Shakespearean moments, and to me, it rang so false. Like, there was a lot of times where, like, Daisy Ridley is saying, you know, some garbage, and then and then he's sort of standing there like this, like, not even looking at her. She's like, you know, she's where you are, and he's just kind of like, you know, like,
yeah.
Like, what is this? Like, this so wooden.
This is a dude who's been isolated on this island for quite some time. You know, he's gone through a lot of stuff, man, you know, at this point. So, to me, he really conveyed somebody who wants to be left alone, a loner now.
Yeah.
And he's a really broken man as well. So, I really bought all of those elements in the character. However, there's just a few moments of dialogue there where there is a little bit of humor, whereas like Luke of the old. So, I thought he nailed it, man.
I agree to disagree, man.
Yeah.
I thought he was wooden. I did not buy the Broken Man thing at all.
Yeah.
And some of those quips that you're talking about, I thought felt kind of forced. You know, like where are you from? Nowhere.
Yeah.
Where are you really from? Jakku. Oh, you are from nowhere. You know, like, it was kind of...
I like that line, man. And the audience chuckled at that as well. The one that I was in that was, you know, not really into the film. Carrie Fisher, of course. You know, her last screen performance, I was quite emotional with that. I thought she did a good job.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, she was in this before her untimely death.
Yeah.
And luckily, they got a good amount of footage, and I think her performance is probably pretty solid.
Yeah.
She was never the strongest actress in the world anyway. But like, I think Star Wars as a whole hasn't had brilliant actors over its series. I mean, if you look at Mark Hamill as young Luke, I never really dug him. Carrie Fisher was never a strong actress. Harrison Ford is charismatic as anything, but not a strong dramatic actor.
And the problem being he's not in this film. Well, spoilers.
Yeah, sorry about that as well, if you haven't seen The Force Awakens. So you would say the best performance was Mark Hamill?
Yeah.
I would say Adam Driver. And there was...
Yeah, it's fine.
And I'm not a huge Adam Driver fan, generally. I thought Logan Lucky was pretty average. I thought a whole bunch of his movies are average.
I dig the character of Kylo Ren.
Yeah. My favourite actor ever, Benicio del Toro, rocks up.
See, man, I love Benicio as well, and pretty much everything I've seen him in. My favourite of his would probably be Usual Suspects. I love him in that film.
Which is quite similar in this role, to be honest.
But I could understand what he was saying in Usual Suspects. I couldn't catch some of the dialogue, man, which I think really hurt his character.
Yeah, there was a cross between the stutter and that Latino accent that kind of... probably inhibited a couple of the lines. He's pretty much a plot point. And he's a plot point within a storyline that doesn't have a lot of service for the film anyway.
It's a terrible storyline, man. It actually diverts attention away from the main narrative, which is really, it's Luke and Rey's story. You know, the film opens with a bang. You know, with a great opening space battle. I'm like, oh, we're in for an awesome movie here. And then the film stalls while it does this. Finn Rose's storyline.
Yeah. I do agree that at 2.5 hours, by the way, this is the longest Star Wars movie ever made. So, you know, make sure you go to the toilet before you go into the cinema.
The film just stops, man, to do this out of place storyline. Right? And it takes too long for things to happen.
Yeah.
The First Order is there ready to fire on the rebels. Right? And they don't. You know, for like an hour of the runtime.
Look, I bought the whole thing about the First Order they were firing upon the rebels, but they had the shields up and they were out of range. I kind of accepted all that.
For that long?
You know, that's what the story told us. They told us they had 18 hours of fuel, so there's a fair bit of time there you can work with.
But like an hour later and they're still low on fuel and First Order still haven't fired upon them and blown them to smithereens. And
that's hashtag Star Wars. A few times today we're going to say hashtag Star Wars about things that just don't make sense, but in the past we've always accepted them. In A New Hope, we've accepted that some crap is going to happen that doesn't make a lot of sense because the Force. Right? Hashtag the Force. Empire Strikes Back, there's plenty of stuff that happens in those movies that don't make a lot of sense, but they happen because the Force, you know? And this movie was one of those times where there's plenty of Force stuff that happens. There's plenty of times where, yes, they drag things out for dramatic tension. Of course they are. We know they're doing that.
I just have so many questions in this, man. Like, so many questions. And the problem being that it's okay to create a little bit of mystery in a film.
Yes.
You know, leave some questions for the next film. Like Episode 7 did it perfectly. Like, how did Maz get Luke's lightsaber? You know, a question that's best answered for another time. Cool with that.
Yeah.
You know, who was Snoke? You know, who's the character of Snoke? But in here, right, when some of these questions should have been answered, they're either not or they're handled really badly.
Well, what do you want to know about Snoke?
Who is he? Like, who is he?
He's the bad guy.
Yeah, but how did he get into power? How is he running this First Order when we haven't heard anything about him in any of the previous films?
Going into Star Wars 1977, A New Hope, right? Going into that movie, watching it in isolation, without the knowledge of Luke's father, all that sort of stuff, right? What do we know about Darth Vader?
Okay, well, he is the bad guy.
Yeah.
He is running the Empire.
Yeah. How did he get there? Who is he? What does all that mean? Like,
those questions are answered in the very next film.
In the very next film.
And this is the next film in this series now. So we should get some answers, man, and compelling answers as well. Another one being Rey's parentage. you know, as well. Like that, and I'm not spoiling this. I mean, that is a question that is answered, and it's so lazily delivered. She knew the answer within herself.
Yeah,
like it's poor, man, and that's such a big plot point. Something that really gives growth to that character. By the end of this film, Rey hasn't changed.
Like, I felt like there was a lot of character growth for Rey. Obviously, her strength has developed. She's
How?
Well, like her physical strength, her literal physical strength, but also her understanding of self. By the end of the movie, you're right, there is a thing where she has this realization she's always had it within herself, but the strength to be able to access that within herself, she's never had before. So it's just like, you know, that lesson you've always had at Wizard of Oz. You've always had the power, just click your heels. But you still need to have the journey to get to that point.
Yeah. But see, I felt like in episode 5, right, Luke grew in his abilities with the Force. With training, mind you. Rey is just automatically good at everything without any Jedi training whatsoever, right? Anakin was one of the most powerful Jedi of all time, yet he still needed training. And in episode 5, going back to that, you know, Luke had consequences. There were consequences for his actions. Not with Rey. Rey just shows up on Luke's island and starts telling him what's what. He hits her in the back of the head, and she starts destroying things on the island as well. The natives hate her, and it's just like, she's so unlikable in this, man. So unlikable.
Yeah, and I mean, her performance was very wooden early on.
Yeah.
So I've seen this movie twice now, and the first time I was like, well, not digging Daisy Ridley at all in this character. The second time, I wanted to have a real close look and see if there was something that she was trying to do.
I didn't get a sense of that.
I feel like there was something that she was trying to do. She was trying to start really sullen, really blank canvas, and build to this gradually more emotional performance.
It doesn't pay enough respect to films that came before it, and even things within the film itself. There's just so many questions, right? And things that just make no sense, man. Like, okay, Luke's there on this island, you know, protecting, you know, the Jedi texts, you know, the ancient Jedi texts, and that's not a spoiler because it's
pretty,
you know, in the trailer.
Yeah,
it's in the trailer. And another thing in the trailer, he says that it's time for the Jedi to end. Well, why is he there? Why did he go to sort out the first Jedi temple and protect these texts if he wanted the Jedi to end?
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
It doesn't make a lot of sense, man. There's one of the First Order ships is blown apart from the inside. We see it literally explode, right? There's so many survivors. You know, after this huge explosion, there's a vacuum in space, and no one is affected by that, just so that we can have this really adequate, mediocre showdown between two characters?
You know what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say.
There's a lot of moments where you have to suspend disbelief, where you have to accept that the Force is just going to fix shit.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm forgiving of some things and not so forgiving of other things. And one of the main things is characters, their arcs, motivation, growth. Because for me, that's what makes Star Wars special.
One thing that I really loved, and this is the old school film lover in me,
cool,
is that I loved the lightsaber battles. Particularly, there is one towards the end of the second act.
Be careful.
With two protagonists and a bunch of other people.
You're doing well, man.
Right?
I have not spoiled this.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Which is just an absolute highlight for me. And one reason is that obviously at that point in the film, this was... We didn't know which way this particular little bit was going to go, plot-wise. But also, just technically, like, it was reminding me of... Michael Curtiz is an old director from... he directed Casablanca.
Yep.
Right? He also directed a movie in the 30s starring Errol Flynn called The Adventures of Robin Hood.
Yep.
And the thing that makes that movie so great is the lead performance, which is just so charismatic. The swashbuckling joy of the fight scenes, the fencing, and the way that Curtiz just sits back and just lets it happen.
I knew you were going to say this. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful wide shot, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful.
It's not it's let's watch this, let's zoom in on it here, let's follow it, let's do this.
Yeah, beautiful.
But there's always a real clear, it's not jumping around, it's not making me sick in the head, it's not blurry.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Love it. Yeah. I mean, top marks for that. And there's like as we said, Rian Johnson's decided to bring that in as a change, you know, for the Star Wars action scenes. But some other changes I didn't quite agree with, and one would be the white transitions, or lack of them, in this film. We always get a lot of white transitions between scenes. I think I counted maybe 3 or maybe 4 in the whole film. And these are things that push to the back of the mind. They work on a subconscious level to let you know, okay, I'm watching a Star Wars film here, right? There's things you need, okay? John Williams' excellent score, which it's here.
Yeah.
Man, like the man's a genius.
He's just going like...
Favorite... Yeah, like effortless, man. And he uses themes from the prequel trilogy as well, which I love, the original. So it's very well done.
Yeah.
That's great. That helps you remember, yep, I'm watching a Star Wars film. White transitions. So, you know, these are the things. So I didn't quite agree with the lack of white transitions.
And see, 2.5 hours is a long movie.
Sure.
No question about it.
2 hour 32 or something like that. Yeah.
Longest, as I said, longest Star Wars movie ever made.
Sure.
But I didn't feel like it was lagging. I was obviously just really invested. I was having a great time.
What did it get on Pure Cinema?
Very high.
Right.
Very high. I'm not sure if that's people that are anticipating the film or not, but I imagine that most people that are voting have seen it. Hundreds of people returned to vote, which is almost unprecedented for us. 78%.
It's a mediocre film. You know, it's got some good action in it. You know, for the most part, I had an okay time with it. It's just not my Star Wars. I was really tossing up between 2 ratings, either 2.5 or 3. Look, I'm gonna go 3 only because I don't want death threats. Okay?
I just had, even the second time I watched it, we'd spoken about some of the flaws the day before.
Sure.
After the first time I'd seen it. I accept that those are flaws. So, you know, you take away points for gaps in the story and stuff like that. It gets points for technical, for me. Like the sound, the music.
Oh, for sure, yeah. They're
the
all
cinematography. I'm going to go with 3.5. Despite its flaws, I just had a genuinely good time.
Let the past die. Kill it. If you have to. That's the only way to become what you were meant to be.
So between Timsy and I, we've seen The Last Jedi 3 times for an average of a 3-star rating.
Wow.
Yes.
Isn't that cool?
Have you seen it? If you have, please comment below and please give us a like. And if you haven't seen it, make sure you go to your local cinema.
Yeah, check it out, guys. Of course, we love hearing from you guys. Until next time, don't forget to click subscribe and get in focus.
I was just like, I was thinking, Josie? No, it's not Josie. Jojo. Get back, Jojo. I actually know a Loretta too.
Oh, nice.
It's always like you always hear that name and go, get back, Loretta.